Hello, Saginaw. Welcome to another episode of Saginaw Spotlight, where we shine a light on the incredible individuals and businesses that make our city shine. I'm your host, Alex, and today we have a truly special guest. We are diving into Michigan's cannabis industry with Spencer, the owner of Greener Days Dispensary in Breckenridge. Greener Days is more than a dispensary. It's a place where innovation meets wellness. They've got an industrial kitchen where they create their own edibles, offering a unique experience for their customers. We will be discussing what it takes to run a dispensary, the science behind their edibles, and the changing landscape of cannabis in Michigan. Spencer, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Let's start with your journey. What inspired you to open Greener Days Dispensary?
Uh, so Greener Days kind of uh, forced its way onto us more or less. We originally started back in 2014 was when our journey kind of started. And we moved to Michigan. Our dog was epileptic and she was having about 66 seizures a day. And after we gave her cannabis oils, she went to having one every 65 days. And to us,
Oh,
it was an eye opening experience, and it showed us what the medicinal value that cannabis can really offer, not just for us, but for other people if they knew about it. And so we felt like coming and up to Michigan and really spreading the edible aspect, just because that's something that we were dabbling in. And when we moved up here, that seemed like the place that a lot of people didn't necessarily understand. And when you talk to people, it was, oh, I don't do edibles because I either got really messed up or the experience wasn't a good experience. And so we kind of listened to a lot of people before we got into it. But as far as like the business side of it. And so as we were dosing our dog and we understood the dosing side of it, then we were able to hear what the need was in Michigan, and we started making edibles. And my wife, who's the real engine of the motor, she was her background was she used to do a national management company for Amerigas, and so she was large scale. And then she started doing cakes at home, and so we kind of combined the two. And she's uh, what really brought us to fruition was Medi Eddies, and Medi Eddies is our edibles line, as well as extracts. And we started doing farmers markets back in 2015, and
yeah.
we had a specialty where we were able to offer a cake truffle, and we would put two of them in a bag, and they'd be 50 milligrams a piece and a 100 milligram package. And they they caught fire. They blew up like fire. It was crazy. We started we ended only going to four farmers markets. The first one we went to, we sold out. The second one we went to, we had some pre-orders and sold out. The third one, we started meeting dispensary owners because it was over in Detroit. And then the fourth one, we were sold out before we even got there. And so one of the issues, is we were living in Battle Creek at the time. And this was in, again, 2014, 2015, 2016. And then 2017, we actually moved over to Detroit. And we were we were in about 130 different stores at the time of the caregiver time. And we ended up getting licensed with a company. Didn't work out with them for a few different reasons, and we ended up getting our own license. And we had to move up to Flint area, and so the business side of it moved to Flint because it was processing. You had to fit into a certain location. So once we were in Flint, we decided that we needed to move again because driving from Detroit to Flint all the time isn't reasonable. And we actually moved up here to Saginaw. And in that process, the guy who was our, it wasn't really our realtor because we just did a Zillow search, but Zillow suggests a realtor to you. So we got one of the suggested realtors. And as we were talking to him, we found a house that we were wanting, and we were trying to go through the process of buying the house, and we kept getting kicked to the underwriter when we were trying to get a mortgage set up. And so the realtor was like, "What do you guys do? I've not dealt with this before." And so we were like, "Well, we're in cannabis. We do processing, and so we're going through some hoops clearly." And he's like, "Oh, really? You guys want to open a dispensary?" And I was like, "Sure, where at?" He said, "Breckenridge." I was like, "Colorado?" And he's like, "No, no, Breckenridge, Michigan." I was like, "Oh, sweet, let's check it out." So I started talking to him about it, and I asked him, I was like, "Is the city opted in?" And he said, "No." And I was like, "So they don't have the ability to do a dispensary then?" He's like, "Yeah, but I've been talking to the city manager, and he seems open to it." And so I was like, "All right, I'll tell you what, because I'm 2 hours away from you right now. If you talk to the city manager and you can set up a time, and we've got a location, I'm willing to come up, meet him, and kind of see where we stand." And so we came up, we met with Mr. Jeff Osterstrander out of Breckenridge. He's the city manager there, and he just kind of told me where the board stood and kind of what the city was thinking, and said that they still had to do their due diligence. So they got a hold of an attorney and actually proposed the whole bill, and the city accepted it. And we're the only ones that applied, I'm pretty sure, one of two people that applied. And it just kind of, like I said, it just kind of fell into our lap, man. I know it's a long story, but it's a long
No,
process to get there for sure.
hey, you know what? Thousands of um, marijuana enthusiasts dream of opening a dispensary. You accomplished a lot doing that, and it's fantastic. I noticed that uh, the dispensary is right next to a police station, right? I You must
Yeah,
have a good relationship with the police, right?
yeah,
That's important, huh? Right?
it's very important. There's the police actually came over to us because we've got the best security system in town, and there was something that had happened in town, and he's like, "Hey, do you care if I use your security system and check out the cameras?" And I was like, "Man, it's actually policy. You're allowed to see them whenever you want to." So
Cool.
yeah,
That's
it's pretty cool
awesome.
that everybody in the city, it seems like, it's on first name basis, and it's not a real big city. Um, so it's really nice to be able to know the police officer as well as the chief, and they come over and just say hi, how are you doing? Congratulations that you guys were opening. They've always been super supportive, and even help enforce a parking spot if we need one.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, your tax revenue is helping support the police department in such a small town, right?
Not only that, but I don't know if you knew, a lot of people don't know this, that the excise tax that's collected from the purchases that goes into a pool, and part of that is actually dispensed directly to the city as well as the county that approves a dispensary, and they get currently right now it's about $60,000 that they get for every dispensary that they approve. So like people back a couple years ago were like, why does Bay City keep approving all these dispensaries? And it's like, well, because they're collecting about $2.3 million just in licensing side of it, on top of anything else that they get to help benefit the city.
Now, and a lot of cities are cash strapped now, and
Right.
Breckenridge only has like 1,200 people. So you're, uh, I mean, I can only think of five, maybe 10 businesses in the whole town, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
significant contribution to the tax base there. That's
And
awesome.
thank you. I appreciate it. We actually, this last year, they were able to build a park, or update one of their really old parks with all the money that they have. And they actually gave us a little shout out. So it was pretty cool that they're able to do it, but also giving us a little recognition for us helping.
Hey, you know how far we've come because before we were behind some alley and all sneaking around and getting arrested. And now you're actually a healthy contributing member and your taxes are helping the community and restoring the parks. This is a great thing that you've done. Really
Yeah,
is,
for
man.
sure. And it's
Thank,
ironic that you say that. When I was in Detroit and we were working with another company, there are three or four of us standing around outside, and this is right in the middle of COVID, and we were all deemed essential. And so one of the guys said, "Hey, man, it's kind of funny, a couple years ago we were worried about getting rated, and now we're all deemed essential."
Hey, and a lot of people say that marijuana makes you paranoid, right? But if you don't have a fear of being arrested, there's a whole lot less paranoia involved,
Isn't that the
right?
truth? Yes, sir.
So obviously, the cannabis laws and the industry have changed a lot since you started this journey. Um, what How do you see the market moving in the next 5 years? What do you see for
Uh,
this
I'm
market?
I'm hoping it goes back up because right now it's almost to the basement. So it's crazy. Some of the things that we used to wholesale now retail at 20% of the original price. And as somebody who made edibles, it's it obviously that's pretty tough to get by when you're already only making dollars compared to somebody who maybe sells pounds, and you can sell a pound of cannabis for anywhere from 200 to $800 a pound. You're going to recoup the cash a little bit fast. Obviously, there's different expenses. There's different things that factor into all that. I'm not trying to say it's apples and bananas, or apples and oranges, however you want to say that there. But the industry right now, no matter who you talk to, I think has almost bottomed out. And unfortunately, to like people we used to offer the craft product where we had the cake balls or cake truffles. That shelf life for something like that's only about 3 weeks. And with the way that it works now, all products have to be at least 6 months stable. And the issue there is you have to really put in some bad product to make it a shelf stable product. We used to make fresh products, and now we have to make Twinkies, and it's to us it we don't even offer that product anymore just because one, the way that we made it wouldn't work, and the way that we have to make it isn't something that we see as healthy. And that's something that we really prided ourselves on because of our backstory with it coming from our dog. We always had non-GMO organic ingredients that were fresh, and something that obviously we put a little sugar into it, but a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Hey, yeah.
it it
Continue.
no, it's really been tough. And so hopefully, over the next couple of years, what I'm hoping the state would do, I think it'd be really beneficial, is if they'd put a minimum on it. They treated it just like any other commodity. That helps the farmers, and then in turn it helps the processors as well. And then it's still going to give more money for the dispensaries. And they've brought up this. I'm sure you've heard about it recently. This wholesale tax. Have you heard about that?
I have not heard about it.
So they're talking about putting a 32 to 36% tax on wholesale products. And yeah, there's no other
That'll
industry in the
cripple you
world
guys,
does that.
right? That'll cripple
And
you. Yeah,
yeah, and so, you know, these companies that I feel like are already scraping by and doing this, and now you're going to take 32% more of what they're doing. If we just put a minimum on it, then the product has to be sold at a minimum price, which then generates a certain revenue for the state as well. And then we can all survive at that. And so I'm really hoping that they put a minimum onto it. And then I'm really hoping that they allow more of a niche product come out for the edibles again, because right now it's just freeze dried products. It's gummies and maybe some hard candies. And it's just like this, it's hard to separate yourself from somebody who can produce every single one of those in a machine.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The price is almost it's getting close to just tobacco price, really, the price of a
Seriously.
pack of cigarettes. And so Um, and when you put in super high quality ingredients like organic nutrients and stuff, the cost, your margins are even slimmer now, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so yeah, wow. Um, so that kitchen is unique. it sets you apart from the. I've never been in a dispensary and saw an industrial kitchen. I was taken aback when I saw it. I was like, there's a kitchen in here. So
Yeah,
tell us. I hear good things about your cake balls, right?
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
popular item, right? I
yeah, for
haven't
sure.
tried one yet, but they sound
Well,
good.
we'll have to get you some of those. Those will have to be a homemade product anymore, but we can for the cake balls. But for the gut, we got gummies. We've got some like chocolate covered gummies. It sounds a little interesting, but if considering we're up north in Michigan and everybody loves cherries, chocolate covered
Yeah,
cherry tastes just like a chocolate covered cherry. It's
yeah,
pretty scrumptious.
yeah, yeah,
But it's the again, coming from something that was craft and more of a niche product, we thought of a lot of the fudge shops and the old school fudge shops. You go in, you can watch them make the product. It's right in front of you. You get the smells from it a little bit, and so that to me really intrigues me. If there's a fudge shop with one and there's one without one, I'm going to go see the show, and
yeah,
that was something that we were really big on once we kind of sat down and just kind of had a smoking session ourselves and kind of came up with some thoughts and uh it just seems like uh we're trying to be more transparent in an industry that a lot of people are trying to blow smoke and mirrors, it seems like. And so the how much more transparent can you be than open the window and let people come in, see how much we weigh pre-rolls at, see how much we weigh out the eights, watch us make the ingredients. You can see almost from start to finish. We have nothing to hide. Obviously we're not going to give you our measurements and the actual way to make it, but we want to put everything on display, let people come inside and truly see what you're getting.
yeah. Awesome, awesome. This is fantastic. Yeah, edibles can be tricky because the dosing is different from product to product. So, I think that's one reason the gummies are popular because I know exactly how much I'm getting, and I could cut it in half if I don't need that much. But how do you ensure the potency and the safety of these products?
Yeah, for sure. So that's something we take a lot of pride in, actually. There's two sides of it too. Like some people are like, "Oh, your guys' stuff is stronger," and it's like, no, our stuff is just what it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
And back in our caregiver days when people didn't have to do testing, we always did testing. We were always within about 0.3%, which is pretty good because the standard's 10%. So you get a 10% margin. We were always within point 0.3. But it just really depends on like the product you're making. And a lot of it just is math and science. So it's just applying the simples of, what are you using to put into it, and then how many are you making. And so as long as you can figure those out, you're gonna keep yourself from having one of those crazy nights with a brownie.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I do fear. I think a lot of people fear is getting too high. You're going to get a headache the next day. Also, you might have to go to work tomorrow. You don't want to
Yeah,
get too high. So I, a lot of people are using the edibles for sleep now, huh?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, definitely.
it's a common thing that they're coming to you saying, I need something to help me sleep, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot. Something that we try to help educate people on is, there's different cannabinoids that are going to do different things for you. And that's talking about like CBD, CBG, CBN, THC. Um, THC is going to help you fall asleep, but it's not necessarily going to keep you asleep. And so when you're trying to get one of those good all the way night throughs, we try to recommend THC and CBN, and we always joke around the N's for nighttime. That's not what it's for, but it's a good way to refer to it. That way, it helps people kind of stay where they're looking and go, like stay on track for their uh, ailment or situation, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, That's fascinating. Uh, so, uh, sometimes people are uh, experiencing chronic pain, right? And I'm grateful that I'm not one of those people, but I could see that I would like a higher dose if I had, serious pain, right?
for
So,
sure.
is that what the wax is and the resins and those higher concentrates are better for pain management? Is that correct?
I think those are better for like an immediate release or relax or immediate results. So like they'll help you get to, but you got to think when something reacts fast, it's also going to be short lived. So I would recommend for somebody that's trying to, especially if you don't know how to dab, I would definitely start low and small, just like if it's an edible. But I would do that for your immediate relief, and then follow it with an edible, a low dose edible that's just going to keep you floating kind of through that situation. By the time you start to come down from your dab, that edible will be kicking in, and it'll just be a good, almost like a better, healthier Advil for you.
Yeah, yeah. And am I correct in assuming that if a listener is um, doesn't if a listener needs help uh, picking the right product for either sleep or pain or just stress relief, that they just come in and talk to the bud tender and bud tender will help them find the right product?
Absolutely. We've got a few of us there. We're like you said, we're in a small town, so we don't need a ton of us. But the few of us that are there, we understand the different cannabinoids. Something else that a lot of people, I feel like other dispensaries don't really talk about are terpenes. And terpenes are the aromas, the smells, and it's kind of like the essential oils. So if you believe in essential oils and you believe in terpenes, every cannabis plant has a different terpene profile, and those terpenes are actually what are going to give you the effects that you're looking for. Couple things with that being said, you can't eat terpenes, or you can eat terpenes, but your stomach doesn't recognize terpenes. So if somebody's trying to sell you on an indica hybrid or sativa edible, that's just a marketing ploy. It's something that a lot of people get. It's mind over matter type thing. If somebody gives you an edible in the morning, you already have more energy, right? And so you're just going to eat that edible, and you're going to be able to function with the benefits of it. Same thing at night. That's why I was saying CBN is what's really going to help you hit the realms. People will tell you there's just a indica edible. Well, when you eat it and there's just THC in it, it's going to help you fall asleep, but you'll probably still wake up at some point. Um, but the terpenes, when you're using the dabs, or if you're smoking flower, those are what can give you a lot of different. They can give you the euphoria. They can help creativity. Just like mint can take away headaches, certain cannabinoids, or I'm sorry, terpenes are going to help take away headaches. Myrcene is going to help with being able to focus for some people, and it's going to help some people go to sleep. So it also just depends on how your body reacts with the different things.
Yeah, yeah. I love the terpenes. I love to take the pre-roll and just taste it before I light it because you might get a grape or a cheese or a diesel and they all taste different. And some people might think, well, these are just wacky names they're giving the plants. No, there's a reason for every name. And it's fascinating. There's a whole science to this. And it's fascinating. It really is.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I'm trying not to do it today, but I end up nerding out where I start talking too much about the different science, and my wife's looking at me and she's like, "Nobody understands you. Relax."
Yeah, my wife does the same to me too. Yeah. A subject that's dear to me, I'll torture her, and then
Yeah.
she'll say, It's you." Hey, before we continue, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Iva Road Dog Sitting. If you're looking for a safe, fun place for your friendly dog, Iva Road Dog Sitting serves the entire Saginaw area. They have a big fenced yard, a cozy home environment, and all dogs get free daily walks. Dogs love it there. Mention this podcast and get 3 free days of dog sitting. That's a $100 value. Text Iva Road dog sitting at 989-954-7210. All right. And we're back with Spencer from Greener Days. And all right, I want to know everything about the Happy Hippie Night Out celebration. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun. The last few years, we've done scavenger hunts, and we've been trying to just create a buzz where we can have some sort of festival where we can actually hang out together and be a part of it. And the last couple years for the scavenger hunts, it's been cool. The city has come together for it. Obviously, it's a big day for the cannabis industry, and so we were trying to help make it a big day for the other businesses that are around us. And so we would send them to, the local diner, and then have a ticket in there, and that ticket would be a clue to take them around to the local meat shop, and then from there they would go around to the bank or the gas station, but
Yeah.
just try to get people some traffic, and then they'd come back to us, and we would have a big bag of goodies for them, and they'd get to take that home, and obviously get to do their greener days shopping there, and in the process of that, we were like wanting to know how we could be a part of it and have some fun with the people and show our appreciation with them. And so we're going to do this Happy Hippie Festival, and the Legion's been kind enough to work with us, and they're going to host the event. We're going to do bingo, we're going to do karaoke, giveaways. We'll actually have a dab bar there where we'll have a smoking session section that's behind, where we have a big tent. Everything's private, so it's not anything we have to worry about as far as um, anybody extra coming in. Everybody that will be there has to have a ticket, and it'll be security and all those good things. But it's something we're really looking forward to. We think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. It sounds like a great time. And I feel like that's the future of the industry because um, right now, legal cannabis feels like a very solitary activity. You buy it, you go home, and you smoke alone. That's not fun. I want to hang
No,
out and meet people and do fun things. Why does alcohol, you go to a bar, you go to a club, there's alcohol. But weed, oh, no, you can only do that in your home. That doesn't sound fair at all. And so I really think that's great that you're doing this. And I'd like to see more places have just an outdoor area where people could go smoke. You don't have to sell the product in a place, just to allow them to bring it and smoke outside. I think it would be um, for a very, very fun way to hang out with and meet new people and stuff.
yeah, it's there's there for a little bit. They did have a couple consumption lounges, but the state, just the things weren't affordable. It's not something that necessarily makes a ton of money because it's not selling the cannabis. It's just providing a space for people to come and use. And so, because of the licensing fees and some of the requirements, most of them have ended up closing. And so the only way to really get something going is all downstate. Like downstate does all kinds of different parties and they do things, and it's like, cool. What good is that to everybody else in the state? And so,
Mm.
we were thinking we're 3 miles away from the most middle part of the state. Maybe we should host something.
Yeah. Hey, Detroit is much easier to get things going like that, huh? Right?
Oh yeah.
Detroit, very lax on regulations and stuff.
Yeah, they decriminalize mushrooms even.
Yeah, yeah. And when they have a celebration, they go all out. But then again, because of their lax lawlessness, you have to have extra security in their
Yeah,
events
definitely.
too, right?
Yeah, it got to the point. Um, there was a point where they quit doing deliveries down there just because you would go somewhere to deliver, and they're hoping that you're the first stop, and they'd try to hijack you for everything but the car.
Yeah, yeah. One time I went to a celebration and they had to put us on a bus and they didn't tell us where the final location because they were trying to avoid getting robbed. It was just looked like an abandoned building that we went into because security.
Was it the
Detroit's a
cannabis
little,
convention a few years ago?
yeah,
Yeah, we were
It
there.
was, yeah, it was fantastic. It was,
Yeah.
and that type of community, right? It's a community. And we don't see that as much. The alcohol industry has it's everywhere and it's socially acceptable and it's I want to see cannabis be more socially acceptable as a public, you know, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It's we're all responsible adults. It's what's more dangerous, having alcohol and driving home, or
In my
having
opinion,
cannabis in your
alcohol is
system.
way more dangerous. Alcohol, right? For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And I'm not saying get high and drive around, but I'm just saying if you have cannabis in your system and you drive and you're not impaired, like, that's a difference, I feel like. And, what are you
Big
going to do?
difference.
Go too slow?
I agree, totally agree. Yeah, alcohol is way more problematic than weed, but a lot of people have misconceptions still, even this today, that weed, that's you're a druggie, no, alcohol is by far more that causes a lot of problems.
Yeah,
But
people say, cannabis is the gate, or marijuana, weed is the gateway drug. And man, I would beg to argue, because what's more accessible, going to the fridge and finding a beer, or going to your parents' bedroom and trying to find their weed? Like, the fridge
yeah,
is there for everyone, right?
right, right.
So
Yeah,
I've always
and
said that I feel like it's more of the gateway drug, if there's a gateway drug.
it was only a gateway drug because they had it illegal. So the same dealer who was illegally selling you weed was now selling you, want some coke? You want some,
Yeah.
they sell you something else. That's why
Here's
it
the
was a
menu.
gateway drug. Yeah. But now that you go, my feeling personally, if you um, if you need anything stronger than weed, that's a cry for help because
Yeah,
it's gonna
right.
your life's not gonna go well with, the
No,
weed
you
is
got that's going to help
that's
you deal with the stress, right?
yes. And stress is it's a main it's a big problem in our society today, stress. And this is one of the most effective ways to reduce stress, right? So
For sure.
I'm I, see a lot of anxiety uh and depression, and I feel like, wow, some weed that should be that definitely helps both of those things, anxiety and depression, right?
For sure. I almost think that there are deficiencies from cannabis, because back in 19 I think it's 1937, Time magazine published an article, and it said $1 billion cash crop, and it had hemp on the front of it. And that's, I mean, to me, that's crazy to think 1937 they're using the word billion. Like, that's, what I mean, millions were a lot back then. And so, and then 1938 hemp was illegal. But hemp used to be fed to all of the livestock that we would then eat in turn, right? And so then we were getting cannabinoids, THC, CBD. We were getting THCA, CBD, CBG, CBN, all those different cannabinoids through the livestock that we're eating. We just didn't know it. But then when they made it illegal in 1938, they started using corn, wheat, soy, and those were like their cheap replacements for hemp, just because hemp grew so flush and easily. And um, so when they started using corn, soy, and wheat, then the livestock wasn't as big, because they didn't have the nutrients and they weren't growing properly. So through the 40s and 50s, and they start using steroids, and all of a sudden, you see autoimmune diseases going from, you know, 1 in 40 people to 1 in 2 people. And it's just like your body doesn't recognize itself anymore, because we're eating stuff that we're not supposed to eat necessarily. And so, or we're not getting the cannabinoids that our endocannabinoid system uses. We have a system in our body that runs parallel to our nervous system, and it's called your endocannabinoid system. And that is directly related to inflammation. And inflammation is what causes stress, or stress can cause inflammation. And so if you're able to deal with one, you're able to deal with the other. but a lot of your bodies or our bodies anymore literally with the autoimmune diseases attacks the nerve endings and it doesn't know who it is, but you give them CBD, you give them CBG, or you give them THC, and those all will help stimulate those CB1 and CB2 receptors, and that inflammation just goes away, the pain stops, people can function. And the cool part is, like, this is natural, like this is from the earth. If you're a religious, God, on page 1 of the Bible, it says, he gives you every fruit bearing seed. This fruit bears seed. And so it's like, this is, some people say that there's a holy ointment and that there's a fountain of youth. Like, if you use the right cannabinoids, I definitely think that there's a holy ointment that comes with it, and there's a fountain of youth that can continue to help us stay young, healthy, and prosperous.
Yeah. Well, I definitely see a connection between the laughter and the giggles and the fun of puffing with some friends. And that keeps you young. It does keep you young.
Yeah,
And it keeps the depression and the anxiety away. We're never going to get rid of a high stressful society. That's just part of that's reality. But we
yeah.
can reduce our level of stress at the end of the workday when it's time to lay down. And I mean, yeah, this is fantastic. Hey, Spencer, for listeners who are interested in learning more about legal cannabis or they want to visit your dispensary, how can they find you?
We've got a few different ways. You can Google us. I'm hoping everybody has a Google button right now, and you hit Google, you type in Greener Days, recreational retail, or just Greener Days a lot of times. Breckenridge, make sure it says Michigan, because we've had some people call us from Colorado a few different times, and it's just a funny story. But um, check us out on Google. There, typically when you open that up, there's a call button, there's a website button, there's our address. You can even ask us questions right there on the Google page. It just seems we had our own website and we just actually tied it all back into Google just because it seems like everybody, it's just an easier way for people to look us up. But you guys, you can call us, you can come see us. We've got discreet bags, we've got our Greener Day bags, whatever we got to do to help you out.
Yeah, you
Our
got
slogan is, go
curbside
ahead.
pickup too, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
curbside. Yep.
cool.
So we can run out to you. So, when it was freezing cold and the snow was piled up, we just came out to you so you don't have to come in. You can put your whole order online. You can have it where you do it mobile as well. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. But you can come in and talk to us, or you can just come in, grab your bag, and go, whatever you need to do.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. Hey, Spencer, thank you so much for joining us today. We learned so much about how dispensaries work and how legal cannabis works in Michigan. And listeners, please visit Greener Days Dispensary. If you're hesitant about visiting a dispensary, you're going to be surprised when you walk in how friendly and helpful the staff is, bud tenders. They really do care. They know a lot about the products and they're going to find the exact product uh, that's right for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook. Just search for Saginaw Spotlight. And if you are interested in sponsoring an episode or advertising on the show, let's talk. This is a great way to reach new customers in Saginaw. And if you want to be a guest on the show, that is awesome too. Please message me, Alex, at 989-954-7210. Until next time, Saginaw, keep shining.